All right. So my name is Margaret Rose, and I'm from Florida, from the near Jacksonville area. Um, I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet, and I either call them or text them to my sponsor at 3 o'clock every day. And I weigh and measure those meals without exception. I don't eat between meals, and I drink only coffee, tea, or diet soda or water. And that's what I do. I also get on my knees every morning and every night and say the Serenity Prayer and ask God to help me to be abstinent for the new day. And I thank Him for my abstinence at the end of each day. And I've been doing that for a long time. So, and I also give my sponsor 5 gratitudes every day. That's something which she asked me to do. So I also do that. Um, I I came into this world as a compulsive eater, even as a baby. Um, my mother told me that I used to drink 4 bottles before I would go to sleep every night, and I would holler until she gave me another one till I was full. As a young child, I remember loving sweets and trying to sneak them sometimes, although my mom and dad usually caught me and my sister when we tried to do that. Food was controlled pretty well in my house. I am adopted, and my 2 sisters are not. And so I found out much later in life what I suspected, that this, for me, was a very hereditary issue. My adoptive family, and that is my family that I love and who raised me, they didn't have issues with food, so they were not overeaters, they were not overweight, but I started getting issues like that from an early age. I didn't start gaining weight till I was around 11 or 12, and I got a little chubby at that point, but not huge because my mom controlled food very well. We were not allowed to take anything without asking. And my mom was the kind of person that you listened and you obeyed her or else. So I didn't take food without asking, and I didn't have access to it. Otherwise, I would have been probably a very huge child. Um, I continued to have issues with weight and overeating through high school, and it got worse in college because I was away from home. And I felt bad about myself. Even at the age of 11 or 12, when I was a little chubby, I felt bad about myself. I was shy, introverted, did not make friends well. My father was also in the army, and we moved every year or two. And so I was always changing schools, and that made it even harder for me to make friends and to feel like I belonged. So that also was an issue throughout my growing up. In college, when I went away, I gained 15 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough to make me feel really horrible about myself. And I didn't have dates in college, not until the end of my college. Um, I would get depressed every weekend when other girls in my dorm were going out and having dates, and I did not. Um, when I went home to do my student teaching, which was the semester before my last semester of college, my mother tried again to help me to lose weight. And this is after she took me to a diet doctor and diet pills and other things I had tried, not to no avail. And I listened to her, and I really wanted to try to lose weight. And I did lose the 15 pounds during that semester. I did what she told me, and she fed me the kind of food I needed. And when I went back to school for my last semester before graduation, I was wearing a size 8 dress, and I dated like crazy. I met some Navy officers, and quite a few of them liked me, and I had lots of dates that summer, even got engaged. I ended up breaking that engagement because I realized that I probably wouldn't be happy with that person. But that was the first time in my life that I had a lot of dates and enjoyed my summer. Then I got a job teaching, and very shortly after that, I met my now ex-husband and we married, and we had children right away. I have two daughters. And so I was gaining weight again. I was small when I met my ex-husband, but I didn't want to be deceitful. I knew I had a problem with eating, and I knew that it wasn't going to go away. And I was honest with him and told him that I had lost weight, but that this was a problem for me. So he knew that going into it, but he had not seen me overweight. So after I got pregnant and had the children, I gained weight and kept gaining and gaining. And probably around 73 or 74, I heard about OA on the radio one night in the car, and I heard about it being a spiritual approach, and I knew that that was the only approach that would ever work for me. And so I was impressed from the get-go when I heard about OA. There was not any OA meeting in Tallahassee where I lived, and I decided to start one. And it took a whole lot of effort and courage for me to do that, because I decided the only way for me to even get an idea of how to do it was to go to an AA meeting to see what it was like. And I was terrified to go to an AA meeting. I expected to walk into a room full of drunk people. And my ex-husband actually went with me to that meeting. And I was very impressed. When I went, I heard their speaker and other people speaking about recovery. And it was a totally different experience from what I expected. And it actually really inspired me. I may have gone to one or two more AA meetings after that, just so I could get a feel for how to run a meeting. And then I contacted OA. Somehow I got hold of the address and I wrote to them. They sent me information, and I found a church in Tallahassee that was willing to let us meet there. Actually, before that, I started meeting at a recreation and parks building. And I sat through the first few meetings all by myself. Nobody showed up. I had advertised it in the paper. That was the only way I knew to do. And I just kept going and kept showing up, even though I was by myself. And then a lady who was in AA showed up one day, and she really helped me in knowing how to do things. And from that, we started growing and we got more members. And then we moved to a church basement, and then we moved to another church. We moved several times, and we ended up at a church downtown. And I think to this day, they may still meet at that church in downtown Tallahassee. I had reached probably 185 pounds, closer to 200 by that time. And I do have a picture of me at that, almost that weight. Actually, I may not have it, but I have another one of me after that. I'll hold it. Hopefully you can see it. I can't see myself. Can you see the picture?
Yep. Yes.
That's what I looked like when I was about close to 200 pounds. And I was really not happy with myself. My ex-husband was not happy either. I mean, he was pretty honest with me about he didn't like my weight. He did not like my eating habits. I embarrassed him when we went out to restaurants because I would order seconds of things. And I felt like he didn't really love me, and I certainly knew he didn't find me attractive. And our marriage later ended up in divorce, and I'm the one that chose to get the divorce. And certainly my addiction to food did not help our marriage.
Margaret Rose,
Yes.
you have another 5 minutes.
I think He never would have divorced me. He was committed and he would have stayed, but I was not happy because he was not paying much attention to me and he didn't find me attractive. And he told me that. So our marriage ended in divorce. But after my divorce, I really became desperate to lose the weight. And I developed heel spurs and got to where I could not walk without pain. And the podiatrist told me, the second one I saw, said, I'm going to be honest with you, and you won't do it. But he said, if you would lose weight, you will not have the pain. And he said, you'll never be able to go barefoot again. But anyway, I took him seriously. I found Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous, which is a little different, but they were strict. They were stricter even than GreySheet. And I stuck with them and I lost 80 pounds and I had no pain in walking anymore. And I go barefoot to this day and I've not had any more trouble with that. I became a better mother. I became a better human being. I became a better at anything I did involving relationships with people because I stopped focusing on eating. I stopped worrying about what I was going to binge on next. And I started paying attention to the people around me. So my children today would not have me back the way I was. They do what they can to support my abstinence. My abstinence anniversary now is June 24th of 2022. I have relapsed numerous times and never gained more than 15 pounds, but when I relapsed the last time, I gained 40 pounds. And I was really unhappy and desperate, and I could not stop eating for 5 years. I tried and tried and tried. Finally, by the grace of God, on June 24th, I got my abstinence and I have kept it since then. I am too old to go through another relapse. I don't want to die eating. So, and I'm getting close to that age. So, and I'm also motivated because June 24th happened to be a very important feast day, a holy day in my church. And I don't want to have to change my abstinent date because that date means a lot to me. So, but being able to relate better to people than I ever have and to be more loving and more supportive that's what life is about. And that is what abstinence has enabled me to be. And I'm very grateful for that. Do I have any more time?
You have another 2 minutes.
Okay, good. I just went through the hardest, no matter what, in my life. My older daughter, who's 54, found out she had a brain tumor in February. And I cannot tell you what that news did to me. And I can tell you I had still not fully recovered from it. But she had surgery March the 3rd. I was there. I was able to be with her for a week and a half, and then she wanted me to go home. But she has a partner who's taking really good care of her. She has had very serious challenges. She is not recovering quickly, and she's been very despondent at times, which has been heartbreaking for me. Again, I think my abstinence has enabled me to cope with this as best I can. And but it's a day-to-day thing, and I have to keep putting her in God's hands and keep praying for her recovery and believing that it will happen, knowing that it may not. So that's where I am today, but I would be a lot worse off if I was not abstinent because I have to be there for her. And so I am very grateful that God has given me that grace and He has continued to give it to me. Thank you.